Now, today, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what the NEL was actually about. As all the games have finished and we see the finale, it makes me think about really what the messages were having and going on during the NEL. I think many times throughout the arcs, we've seen kind of the little pivot switch about really what it was for, what it was about. And now, obviously, this isn't going to just be a simple little video like, oh, it was just about getting the top 23 for the World Cup. Now, granted, we all know about that, but I want to talk a little bit more deeper into the themes about the NEL and exactly what they could have been for and the meanings of it. So as we first started into the NEL, the first thing I felt like that the NEL was about was showcasing uniqueness. Now, granted, in Blue Lock, we've seen the talents and people who were able to use skills that others couldn't do. But Ego even talks about this, how your uniqueness will be what helps you go along in the NEL. And from this, we've seen many people demonstrate their uniqueness. We were able to see it in the first few matches, and showcase further on how things would work and exactly whose talents could work and whose couldn't. And that was very apparent later on in the series as we could see the ones who didn't have a very good uniqueness could not move on. This is really just the beginner center level of really how the NEL started, showcasing your own weapons that we are already seen before prior in Blue Lock and seeing how they would stack up against the world. I feel like then the NEL was also about finding your path on the team. That was really a huge thing that we really were deciding what was going on, especially with the Nasagi and Mu Chen. We were trying to figure out exactly what kind of style they wanted to do. Now, as we know, all five clubs had their own type of style, and it was rather if you wanted to either fit into that style or go ahead and change it. We've seen Asagi and Kunigami be the first pillars, kind of changing up the team style, really where they had a rational style of giving Kaiser the ball to then kind of mixing it with their own blue lock style, where they would just have chemical reactions and egos work together. We would eventually then have Asagi take over as the leader of the team with Kaiser, and they would also work together. I think this is an important part about the NEL as well too, because we see these players from Blue Lock find their own paths on the team. Some harder than others, and we got to see them either incorporate themselves into their own style or follow and create their own, giving it into the control of the team. Now, really, the only main thing we've seen from this was Muchen, where Sagi was able to take on the path of his team. And then we also had Ren kind of take over PXG's team, in my opinion, with his own style. But we also had Loki really giving a lot of direction. But for the most part, the rest of the teams, Manshine, Ubers, Barsha, they kind of just followed into the normal Barsha routines or team routines that they had going forward. So I think that was great as well. Really finding your path on the team was important because we got to see a lot of Blue Lock players from the beginning of the games to towards the end, where way more Blue Lock players were actually getting playing time compared to the first few games where it really was just the main starters who we had seen before from Blue Lock. So it was good to see that as well. Many others were able to find their path. We also had people kind of eventually get in through a little bit more unconventional means or lower style means, where we had Igaguri come in and finally do his thing. So I think as well, it was great to see many different players play. But there were some players who we never got to see, one of them being Nishioka. And that sucks, even though he was considered Japan's Messi, but it's fine. The next thing we have really is secondary weapons. This really came apart during Uber's match, where we start to see a little bit more of players having a secondary weapon. Now, as we know, every character really has their main primary weapon, and then now we start to see more of the higher up players get a secondary weapon. This was very apparent, and I think that was huge to see as well, because it let us know how much people were evolving and what they needed to do. And I think this was very important. You see players like Baro get Predator Eye. You see even Asagi get Metavision in his left direct shot. You see many other characters also get Metavision, and we also see Kunigami get this new ambidextrous shot. So with that being said, there was plenty of secondary weapons that were introduced, and I think it brought a new highlight and skill to players who were able to reach that, as we got to see a little bit. And now one of the biggest thing I want to talk about, which really ties in a little bit into the video, was really the Metavision problem that I felt like ended up happening. I feel like when Metavision was first introduced, it was something that was supposed to be spectacular and be seen as something very unique and common between higher end dimensional players. We even seen Asagi, once he got Metavision, talk about players not being his own dimension. But then as time goes on, we start to realize that Metavision really isn't that rare, and that a lot of people could also end up getting Metavision. I don't really mind the concept of it anymore, that Metavision isn't supposed to be rare. However, I feel like the way it was produced and presented, it really felt like it was something rare that only players exclusively with really good eyesight and vision had, and then they ended up giving it to a lot more players. So, I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I do understand the vision and concept. And I thought we would end up getting like a secondary version of Metavision called like Neo Vision, or just a higher up powerful being. But we ended up not getting that, which is fine. But I do think in the future we probably will end up seeing some more eyesight abilities, which I think is great. And I think that should definitely be established and seen more often here in Blue Lock, as we really only have Meta Vision and Predator Eye. So I think eventually we will see more eye type visions. We have seen some cool designs before that really haven't been explained, like Rin's Eye, which you could say is his Destroyer Eye as well. I'll count that. You also have someone like IQ's eyes, who are a little bit different, and you have Charles' eyes, who had a nice design. So I definitely think going forward, we'll see a lot more of the eye stuff, and I'm excited for that. However, it just was with Metavision that I wasn't really too fond of a lot of people having it, and then being showed off is kind of just like lackluster and normal, and not really being much of a deal or an effect after the Ubers match, considering that Asagi had to do way more after that. With besides Metavision to be able to win. So that's just my little rant on Metavision. But now to get to the real purpose, honestly, that I thought of what the NEL was about. And this was towards the end of the matches. So I want to say that this was first really introduced in the first chapter of Blue Lock in itself, when Asagi first realized he wanted to be in Blue Lock and started running with that passion. Honestly, looking back at it now, it really all started back then. You see, after the PSG match, we see Asagi, and he sees how everything he did was right. He was able to crush people with logic, and he was able to find the pleasure of himself, and it came from his hunger. And he knows right now this is his originality, and everyone in the world can feel it as well too. We see Asagi start to think back of the best him from back then. We see different moments of him, like the under 20 match, him defeating Nagi and Team V, and him also crushing Ego. All these times were times where he felt the fire inside of him, this fire that lit up, that really helped him in the moment be able to get past all expectations and win. It was because of that pleasure and being in pursuit of the pleasure that he's able to figure out that he can reach the best in the world. We see this fire be reproduced and happened a lot during the NEL matches. Specifically, we've seen it one time with Nagi when he decided he wanted to defeat Asagi one time. He was able to get that fire and be able to produce one of the best goals we've seen so far. We also see Kaiser and Asagi get that fire as they want to win, going up against Rin, trying to be the best in the world. And then we also see it as well with Otoya and Bachira getting fired up, and the climax that they want, as they want to also be the best in the world and get this one. You see, this fire that goes on is something that really just happens in the moment. You can consider it kind of like a flow, but it's also just like an extra motivation. And we learn now that really, without that fire of becoming, trying to be the best in the world, you really won't win. And this unfortunately happened with Nagi. Only those who believe that they are at the center of the world are the ones who are able to survive in Blue Lock. We also see this fire with Hiyori, when he realizes that he'll be at the center of the world with his passes. Even though he's not a striker, we still have non-strikers be able to have this belief and cause them to win. Now granted, it really is hard because everyone has great belief, especially the ones who work with Asagi. Asagi was able to put in that fire in other players that other teams really can't do. So that really helped out as well too with players like Hiyori and Yukima, so that really helped out. But I still think many other players around all the teams had that fire inside them that allowed them to get past this. We even see Asagi describe this experience and how it might have its own formula. And he thinks back to when he had clear objectives, like wanting to beat someone or surpass someone. And then he found within himself the logic to make it come true. And then finally he became a machine built to carry that out. This is really the true objective in my opinion of the NEL. Finding that fire every single match and being able to reproduce it. Now granted, each fire is different and can't be reproduced. So every time you do something and have a challenge, you have to find a new challenge, a new fire. Otherwise, you'll fall down. And we realize that that is Blue Lock officially, finding the fire and being able to create new fires over and over again. Asagi has been able to create fires every time he plays on a match against different opponents and characters. This is what allows him to keep growing and continue to evolve. Nagi, on the other hand, his only challenge was Asagi. He had no other fire, and he really has no other purpose, so therefore, he was not able to win. And that was really the main theme and cause that I think of NEL, personally in this arc, and it really got to show up and close out in the end. Asagi even says that to win according to calculations, that's exciting for him. He also realizes that every time he plays more and he wins and produces results, his experience and abilities increase. And he gets better at soccer and his skills come more producible. However, he also realizes that he cannot reproduce that fire, no matter what it is. Back then, every moment that he has, it was exclusive to him in that moment. So technique and logic are only methods to make this stuff come true. And all of it starts with the fire that he feels inside himself. Therefore saying that each moment is different and he can't do it all over again. He has to be able to change the fire every time a new situation or experience comes together and level up. And certainly so far, he's been doing that. To be able to keep this fire inside, you need things like dreams or objectives or rivals to defeat. Those are the main three things we've seen as motivation and really helps people keep that fire inside. Like one example is Rin, as how he wants to be Asagi and Itoshi Sae. We also see Baro, as he likes that Asagi's number one because it still gives him that fire to go ahead and be the number one as well and dethrone Asagi. And And we learned that the ones who seize and use that fire are the ones who survive, and the ones who misjudge it fall by the wayside. This is the battlefield and the brutal reality of Blue Lock. This is what I think is really the main theme and message of the NEL. To go ahead and find that fire over and over again. To be able to have that true passion that you need on the outside and inside. Otherwise, if you don't have it, you won't be able to win. And we've seen that from the top 23 who had that passion, and the rest of the ones who got eliminated truly didn't have it. And that's really what the theme is. So I wonder what you guys think about what the theme is of the NEL, and what you purposely think everything all tied together in. For me, it's a fire inside yourself, the fire within you that keeps going and keeps burning as long as you allow it to burn. But let me know what you guys think. I am curious. Well, I thank you guys for watching this video. If you stayed this long, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back in the next one. Peace.